Hey everybody, so this is the second tutorial that is specifically for SoundBytes. And what we're going to do in this video is we're actually going to edit a little bit of a mesh. What does that mean? We'll talk about it in a second. So I can click anywhere outside of this splash screen and I'm left with our wonderful default cube. In this case, if I zoom in or if I zoom out, I can navigate around it. All the information on how to navigate in Blender is in a previous tutorial video, and I'm going to assume you know how to do that. With that being said, I have my cube selected, I have object mode set, and it doesn't even matter what I'm on right here. What I'm about to do is I am about to go into edit mode for this cube. And what that means is that I will be able to change the placement of each and every one of its vertexes, effectively changing the shape into anything I want. So let's go ahead and do that. There's two ways to do this. I can go and click on object mode when I have this selected and go to edit mode, and immediately you'll see that instead of it being a cohesive shape, you'll see that there's these independent vertices that I can select. Another way to get into object mode is simply by pressing tab. It's such a useful thing, and we go into edit mode so often that it is just tab. Okay, great. So I've gone into tab. The last new piece of information I want to give you right here is this. If I have the vertex selection on, it will allow me to select vertexes. If I have the edge selection on, it will allow me to select edges. And if I have the face selection on, it will allow me to select faces. But what can I do with all of these things? Well, let's just say I do click on a vertex like this. I'm going to use some of the commands we're most used to inside of Blender. For instance, G or grab will allow me to grab and move this vertex wherever I want. I can also do the same over here. Woo! If I select both of them at the same time, it allows me to grab and move this entire line. And remember, if I press G and then X, it will allow me to move this on the X axis. I can also get to that axis by pressing G, holding down the scroll wheel, and snapping into one of these axes. Once I've snapped into it, I can let go and it'll just stay in that axis. Now that I have these two things selected, I can also scale and rotate them. I'm going to go ahead and scale this line. I'm going to press S. I'm going to scale it down. Okay, this is looking kind of interesting. I'm moving this along the X axis. I'm going to go to my face mode right here. I'm going to scale down this whole face. Okay, cool. It looks like I can actually create pretty interesting shapes pretty easily. But I imagine by now you're saying, Duncan, this is great. I like being able to, and I'll rotate this as well. I'm going to say R, and I'll rotate on the X axis. And you'll see I can rotate this plane. If I go R, Y, I can rotate it back here. All the commands that we have typically been using to move meshes around. And I'm going to move this up a little bit just for fun. Now the thing is, if I wanted to add more vertices, more faces, more lines onto this mesh, how would I do it? Well, I'm going to show you two ways to be able to do that. I'm actually just going to show you one way. And that one way is extrude region. I've clicked over here when I had this face selected, and you can see, I can just pull this out. I can scale this down. I can pull this out. I can scale it down. But Blender is too fast paced for just that. In fact, if I have an entire face selected, I can just press E. And it'll allow me to extrude no matter what. In this case, I'm going to press E, and it's already extruding the face, so I know I actually just want to scale it down. So I'm going to now press S. And look at that. I'm extruding and scaling the face down. If I extrude again, I can change it. Great. So now I can extrude shapes from my object to make things look pretty interesting. What I find most helpful when I'm modeling something in Blender is to go back to this toggle side menu. This allows me to see something from the side and manipulate it from that side. Now you'll see I'm doing something here and I'm getting kind of a mixed result because I really want to affect everything behind my selection instead of just these two. So how would I do that? Well, you would go to the toggle X-ray mode, or you could press Option Z, either one. What this will allow you to do is not only select the faces that you see in front of you, but the ones behind you. I'm going to go into edge selection mode to get that edge. And I'm going to move it back over here. And I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And I'm going to scale this up a little bit. And I'm going to scale this up a little bit. I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis. Great. Maybe I'll pull it back a little bit. Cool. This is starting to look more interesting. I'm kind of going for like a weird snail thing. This is looking cool. Maybe I'll go ahead and I'll extrude something from here, scale it down, extrude something from here, scale it down. It's looking a little bit more snail-like. Great. The last thing I'm going to show you right now is how to bevel something. A bevel is when I can click right here on this line and say, for instance, I want to smooth this out and kind of round it out. I can press Control B. And if I pull this apart, it'll start to bevel this shape. If I do this on a line up here, you'll see that it not only affects those top lines, but it affects the lines around it as well. So you want to be careful in terms of how you use it. But if I do bevel a line and I press Control B, if I'm at this point where I'm pulling this out, I can actually adjust my scroll wheel and say how much I want to bevel this aspect. Okay, this is starting to look kind of interesting. So, with grabbing, moving, scaling, and rotating vertexes, faces, and lines, extruding those faces, and beveling those edges, you can already start to create some pretty interesting shapes. Along with that, you'll need to use the toggle X-ray mode, and you'll also probably want to use this side view so that you can actually grab all of the things that you actually want to grab, because otherwise it's going to be tricky to grab those things. And there is something to be said about topology, but we're not worrying about that right now. So for your simulacrum homework, what you're going to be doing is, for the second stage of simulacrum, you're going to be creating a stylization of an object, and I want you to be using these tools to create something that is a stylization of an object. So it can be low poly, it can really kind of embrace this new media approach that we're talking about, but it should try and be a representation of that first image. Okay, great. See you soon. Bye.